Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Will of the Wisp event in which the Wisp is added into the game. Wisp is quite an interesting troop. Red purples you'll mainly want to use on two things. Either your Mist Stalker if you are newer to the game, or your Dragon Soul if you can get your hands on one, are the main two things. One other thing, actually there's a lot of red purples, but one other thing to mention is Azurus fully traded is really good to use with a Dragon Soul for soul farming teams. So if you happen to already have a Dragon Soul and happen to just have a Azurus laying around, that's another pretty decent one to trade as well. And a Mira. Mira, if you need a nice good blue counter, can one-shot quite a few blue troops with her 2x damage, and she will have stealthy and a couple other traits that she'll be able to utilize if you give them to her. As far as the Wisp, it is quite a interesting troop. It dispels all enemies. This is now, I think, the third troop that can do this. It has the lowest mana cost of any troop that can dispel them. So if you truly needed a dispel on your team, this would now be the option that you would use, is now this Wisp. It then charms a random enemy. This makes a enemy do their attack damage to the troop above and below. Keep in mind that this is only the base of their attack. For example, if it was to trigger on this Wisp, it would do 35 to the one specifically above and below, and if there's nothing exactly above it or exactly below it, it will not do damage to either of them, and if there's nothing on either side, it will just do nothing if that target is hit. One other thing to note is this does not do their actual skull damage. For example, if they have something like an Inflame where they do burn whenever they take a skull, this does not trigger any of their traits, so it will not actually burn the two adjacent enemies, unfortunately. It only does the damage of their base value of their attack. And on top of this, it then jumbles the board, another third mechanic that you don't tend to see that often. Jumble is almost completely unused in this game at the moment. What it essentially does is it moves all the gems on the board into a different arrangement. This is only good if the troop happens to have an extra turn. The only other troop as of currently that has this is the War Sphinx. And now there is a second one, and this has a much quicker one to be able to use. One thing to note is that when you do end up engaging and using a jumble, it does not have any chance of giving you an automatic extra turn from it, which is why it's pretty good that it does gain an extra turn from its ability. What I mean by this is it will never jumble in a way that it will give you any form of pairs. It will not give you any 3 pairs, no 4 pairs, no 5 pairs, nothing like that. It will deliberately make sure that the board does not give you anything, though it could make it so you would be able to swipe into a 4x or a 5x. So, but you won't directly get any pairs from it. It's not like a remove or explode or something like that, where there is a chance when they come back down to give it. A jumble does not do that, so do keep that in mind. As far as traits, all 3 traits are excessively solid, particularly for an ultra rare. It has stealthy, so it can't be targeted by spells. Magic Link, which is particularly good if you plan on using 2 of them on a team, which is a pretty good strategy with a giant spider, both ultra rares as well. So you can do that and then have a triple Magic Link, 2 off of your Wisp and 1 off your Giant Spider, which would then allow you to put your mana into the Giant Spider. And it has Swift. Unfortunately, it does not have Empowered. On the preview images, it was looking like it was going to get Empowered. Honestly, I'm kind of glad that it has Swift. It might actually have been a little bit too powerful if it did have Empowered. Even with Swift, that's not going to make too big a deal, mainly because you weren't really going to cast this on first turn anyways. This is going to be more of a second or third turn cast. The main reason being is Dispel would do literally nothing if you cast it on first turn, because it is impossible as of this current moment in time anyways for the enemy on their first turn before they do their move to have any positive stats effects. So there wouldn't be anything for this to remove. So I guess that's kind of the reasoning behind it, and just so it'd be a little bit more balanced. So I think that's what they were kind of going for there, because you'd never, as far as the Dispel standpoint, you would never actually need to cast this on the first turn. Second turn would be the first time you'd ever need to cast it. Well, that was a lot of explaining for that troop. One other thing to note about really important thing to note about this event is event keys are excessively good to use this week. There are 2 gigantic things that you do want to get, or mainly just one, and that is Krystenax. There it is. Krystenax. Krystenax is one of the strongest troops in the game right now. Synergizes with every single possible dragon team in the game. If you have some kind of early game dragon base, this is a really good troop to go and upgrade that team. Krystenax is also one of the few troops that can act as a standalone team, as in you can use literally 4 of it as your entire team if you so choose. And this can be used also if Guild Wars happens to still allow it, and it might still be good in it. It used to be, but 4 times Krystenax can solo green and blue Guild War days if that is still applicable once Guild Wars gets reworked. So definitely a really good idea to throw event gems, or event keys I mean, this week if you haven't already gotten yourself 4 Krystenaxes, or if you haven't gotten yourself a mythic Krystenax. Do keep in mind if you're going to be ascending your Krystenax that you will have you'll want to keep a couple copies. Like if you're only about to ascend it and you have only 6 copies and bring it all the way back to down to 1, you normally don't want to do that. You should have at least 2 Krystenaxes at any given time. Do not disenchant unless you have at least 2 of it. So do keep that in mind, and you might even want to keep a whole 4 of them, maybe even 3 of them. There's quite a few teams that can run off of both 2, 3, and 4 Krystenaxes. One other thing to note is Queen Aurora should be in the drop pool as well. I haven't seen her pop up there, but she is from this kingdom, and she should be in the drop pool. I cannot confirm this for sure. Pretty sure someone in the comments who happens to have gotten lucky and got her may be able to confirm that, but I do not know that for sure. She should be. Don't know if she is, but do keep that in mind too. So you might end up picking up one of those. Don't throw your keys and waste it. Only throw your keys for the Krystenax is the main thing you want to aim for. So as far as event objectives, we have a couple of really weird ones. We have to summon knights to help guard Princess Elspeth. There is one really easy way to do this, though this is still a pretty time-consuming event. What you have to do is keep clicking refresh until you find a very, very, very weak 1 trophy. Then just use either 4 times Princess Elspeth or 1 Sir Gawain with a red-yellow banner with 0 troops in the rest of your slots. Use either of those 2 and then just win out the game. The reason why you need a ridiculously weak 1 trophy is so that you can hopefully one-shot all of the enemies. Princess Elspeth does have 50% bonus this week. This comes from the fact that there is a 25% to all Silverglade, as well as a 25% to all elves. There isn't anything too particular as far as teams that this works really well in, but this does work for being able to do the current event, which is just winning these out and killing them out. She has 45 base attack with this current event, so it makes it really easy for her to get down 1-shots against your 1 trophies. Hopefully you will be able to try finding very, very, very weak ones, but just keep her alive. Hopefully just keep getting her mana up, and do keep in mind that you do have to win or lose the battle. You can't just retreat. Like right now, even though we summon them all, if we retreat, we will not get any of the gems, but if we win or lose, we will get to retain those gems. It doesn't matter which, you just have to do one of them, whichever one happens to be quicker in your circumstance. One other thing that you can do if you happen to be a slightly newer player and need to kind of do the same exact thing is do the inverse of what we're doing now. Instead of trying to do the weakest possible enemy, you can try doing the strongest possible enemy and then just try to essentially suicide yourself against them while throwing your Princess Elspeth. Even if you don't have her empowered, I do believe 4 Elspeths would be the best idea for this week. And if you had to go with a different option, like I said, just 1 Sir Gawain with that's it, just Sir Gawain, empty space, and empty space, just so he has plenty of room to summon into them. But yeah, that is what you have to do for those, and as you can see from us completing that out, we do end up getting all of our 5 event gems for that. So bonus souls, we do get 20 bonus souls this week for using a pure purple team in Explore, specifically Explore. This is somewhat okay, mainly because, as some of you may remember from when we did, oops, that's not Explore. Oops, I forgot. You can't actually do it in the challenges. I was just about to do it in the challenge, but it's still applicable. Go to a kingdom that you want to go and explore in. Go to Explore and kick out the Dragon Soul into Triple Azurus. And you can actually trade everything in this team as well. Though to make this team work, the only thing you need traded is the Azurus. So essentially how you would normally do any soul farming team. double check to see how many shots it will take, and it looks like 3, so we'll just leave it on the normal difficulty. Ideally, you will be able to do it in 2. Unfortunately, I didn't notice earlier that it is Explorer only, so this will go slightly slower. Is this really viable to do in Explorer? Probably not, but if you're going to be farming trait stones anyways this week for whatever reason, then you might as well. But yeah, it will give you 20 extra souls. You're already gaining so many souls from this team that I don't even think it's time efficient to get the 20 extra souls. Maybe if it was something a little bit bigger than that, it might be okay, but I don't know, that's what it is. Not really that worth going out of your way for. Maybe if you're already going to be doing it, then, well, you might as well be gaining the extra 20. But for the most part, not really that worth it. And let's go over a team with the new little glade thingy. Preferably not one that is ridiculously annoying beyond all belief. Of course, all of them are annoying beyond all belief, so we'll just go with this and mess around with it. There are 2 basic teams I was thinking of doing. I chose this one mainly because I wanted to mess around with basically shuffling a bunch of things around. The budget version of this team is basically Wisp, Giant Spider, Wisp, and any purple troop. But yeah, the double Wisp Giant Spider combo I believe is the core of any Wisp team. But I figured I'd try it with this pretty much unused weapon, knock a target troop to the front, and that's basically all it does. The reduced armor is barely even going to come into play. But I wanted to do this so we could rearrange with the Wisp. One big downside to Charm actually does a lot of damage. It's always been a really high damage, but pretty inconsistent. The biggest issue it normally has is enemies are not adjacent to each other. And one really nice thing that you can do with this weapon is when they're not adjacent to each other, you can move them however you want. You can knock one right up front, and that will align them in a way that you will actually be able to get the full amount of effect from the charm. Though for the most part, I'm pretty sure that's not really viable. I'm just kind of messing with it. But yeah, essentially, Wisp Giant Spider Wisp, or Wisp Giant Spider, any purple troop that's really good, is essentially the core of this team. I just figured we'd try it with a little bit of a different variant, mix it up a little bit. And as you can see, there goes the charm again. Pretty decent damage, not the greatest for damage, but the fact that we get that as an extra turn ability, I believe that may have the highest automatic extra turn damage in the game right now, which is pretty insane for only a 9 mana cost. Not to mention you get the first cast off very quick. But yeah, it definitely has a lot of potential, this little troop. A lot of really weird teams that you can make out of it. One thing that will probably be utilized the most, more than any of its traits, even the Swift, is most likely going to be the Magic Link. I find Magic Link to be one of the most powerful links. Links in general just tend to be really good just because of how much quicker you can outpace the enemy, particularly once you stack several of them onto a single team. The reason I consider purple particularly valuable is because it has a +1. Purple and blue I value the most because of Valkyrie being able to create blues while also having a +1 for it, and Giant Spider being able to create purples while also having a +1 for it. Both of these 2 colors I've always found to be 2 of the strongest simply because of how both the Spider and Valkyrie work. But let's just throw this down. And we finally got the Kraken, which is one of the main core things I wanted to be doing with this team. Essentially what I wanted to do was keep extra turning like crazy and just keep chipping them down. If we didn't have the right board, do this again, try shuffling to find an extra turn somewhere for swipe, and if we didn't have it, we would just throw a Kraken, and if the board was already good previously, we just throw the Kraken onto that instead. But just keep getting these going. Doesn't really matter if we get rid of some of those colors. Just keep looking for any of those extra turns. If there's none, shuffle the board to hopefully shuffle it into a board that does have extra turns. And I didn't really get to use the movement here. I guess we could try doing it. The thing I was going to try doing with the but if I take the extra turn, it will kill it. The thing I was going to try doing with the extra turn thing here, which I guess we won't be able to try doing, was move this. Like, we could move that up front, and then a charm they would both be next to each other, and then you could charm it. But yeah, I guess that's not really that needed. I just wanted to mess with it, but we ended up winning without using that mechanic. And of course, that would have actually been way more efficient just using 2 of those things. And yeah, Wisp is very strong even without the empowered. It may quite possibly be the strongest ultra rare in the game, to be honest. Simply because it's one of those troops that just does a ridiculous amount of things. Lowest dispel in the game, or lowest mana cost dispel, lowest mana cost Charm, lowest mana cost Jumble, and if I'm not mistaken, lowest mana cost extra turn, at least on its first cast. Of course, a Goblin on repetitive casts has a lower mana cost overall, but if you're talking only the first cast, and it even has a cheaper extra turn than that as well. So yeah, a lot of very, very good potential on it. And I believe there was one other team I wanted to do, wasn't there? Oh yes, I wanted to just do some standard Krystenax team, because Krystenax, pretty much everyone knows that Krystenax is really, really strong. It's one of the top 10 troops in the game, without a shadow of a doubt. Possibly top 5, some people may consider even the best. Of course, something has to be the best. I wouldn't really consider overpowered. It just has a lot of utility to it, particularly in Guild Wars, because everything it does, you need in Guild Wars. It has high damage output, it has board control, and it has a summon. And it has a boost ratio, so for newer players, they'd also be doing better damage, scaled up a little bit. Has basically everything you need. It has all that. You need the summoning for Guild Wars to be able to preserve your points, or at least how it used to be. We still don't know how it's going to be reworked as of this current moment. It has that really high damage burst that can kill them all at once, so you don't have to worry about like Death Knight class fully traded that might end up randomly death marking you. And of course you have that nice remove, and being able to remove any color of choice is always really good. It's much better than just randomly removing a specific color, or not randomly removing. Like if you only remove blue and you have to force yourself to remove blue, any troops that specifically are forced to remove only one color and only that color tend to be disabled sometimes, because they aren't always capable of casting. Whereas with this, you can always cast it, and sometimes you can get some really nice cast on it. Like right here, we can see, free return right there on the Browns. And there's a lot of nice things that you can end up doing with that. The cheapest one, I believe, of something that does something similar to this is a Tyree. Really good, cheaper version. Oh, sorry, wrong trip. Very strong, cheaper version. Though the problem with Tyree, she doesn't have a summon, and she doesn't have any damage at all. Though she does have the offset of being able to farm you maps, which is particularly good earlier on in the game. Not to mention, she's really easy to get. All you have to do is complete out Soul Carry. But yeah, I definitely advise getting Krystenax. I use it almost all the time these days, mainly because I like using Dragon Soul, and with the best thing you could possibly synergize with a Dragon Soul is indeed Krystenax. And like I mentioned earlier, if you need to buff up your Dragon team, if you're already running like a partial, kind of like makeshift Dragon team of some kind, maybe like with Dragon Tar, Dragonian Monk, Dragon Assassin, maybe some other thing, Krystenax would be a great choice to add to that team to be able to buff it up quite nicely. And of course, you can get it from event keys this week. Anyways, that will wrap it up for this video. If you guys have any other questions about the current event or anything else Gems of War related, or anything else in general, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.